Okay, this is just a tutorial that I'm doing just to show basically how to run an exploit, and basically the name of it is it's called Dirty Cow because it's basically to do with a copy on write bug, which was in the Linux kernel a few years ago. But the interesting thing about this one is that the reason why I ended up actually having to use it is because I actually ended up, and actually if you go onto my website, you can see to actually get the description for this this particular video. If you go to applications used, and then basically on that page you'll see one called cracking into a Centos 5, well it says 5.5, but that's because that was the version of yeah, actually I'll probably edit that to say 5.11, so don't be surprised if you see the title changes, because basically the server that I had to get into, the reason it happened was because I didn't have the root password, because the guy who looked after the server before had left the company, so now it was just my turn. So basically it was just to save time. What I ended up doing was just trying to find some sort of exploit, because it was a CentOS 5 machine, so I thought they must have something out there, and that's when I came across this particular Dirty Cow exploit. So what ended up happening is I had to actually work it out and get it onto that server, because I only had like a normal user login. But then what it is, the client wanted me to copy some of the sites off it. So rather than me sort of having to come up with reasons or excuses, I thought, well, this is such an old version of CentOS, I'm sure there must be something on it. And sure enough, there was. So this is just a demonstration just to show how to actually run the exploit. So what I'm going to do is just to show that this really does work on a fresh CentOS 5, and it's not something that I've had to change in order for it to work. What I've done is I've downloaded a CentOS 5.11 sort of DVD, and I've created a image that I'm going to install it on. So the next thing I'm going to do now is just run through the installer for CentOS 5. Just skip that. This is an ISO, so you know this ISO is fine anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to run through just the usual install. Okay, I'm just using a standard installation because there's nothing really that basically it doesn't matter what you have installed, it'll work regardless. And so while that is installing, what I'm going to do is rather than going to the trouble of, basically, easiest thing to do is if I just presume there's going to be no GCC on this machine that's going to be attacked. So what I've done is I have another machine, which is CentOS 5.5, that I actually already have GCC on. So basically what you need is just another machine, preferably of the same OS as the machine you're trying to get into. And right, so I'm just going into a machine. This is another CentOS 5.11 virtual machine that I've got running, and actually, just putting in the wrong user. Right, so basically this is just a CentOS 5 machine. So if we it's a CentOS 5.1, and basically so on this machine I've got GCC installed. So what you then have to do is you have to prepare the binary that you're going to be running on the target machine. And so to do that, if you go to, so on my site, basically I have a link to a repository which actually contains the C file, and it's actually this one here. So if we go to this site, so this is a GitHub repository of BitProDeep, and all you're after is this this C file. So if you click on it and then go to raw, and what that does is that gives you a link to the actual to the C file itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to get download a copy of that, and I think this is going to come up with an error. Yeah, so just have to take Wget's advice. Just use a no check certificate because CentOS 5.11 is a bit old. Right, so we have the dirty.c file, and basically, as the file is there, it is actually ready to run, but there's just one thing that I sort of like to do to it before I actually do any, before I run it. And so basically what you have to do is to edit the file, and I'll just use nano. And the only thing I'm going to change is Basically, it's just the user, because he's got the user as Firefart, but I just want to change it to something a bit more normal. Right, so there we have the C file, and so basically this CentOS is finished installing, so I'm just going to give it a reboot. Right, and so as you can see, it gives you the instructions of what to do. So I've just mirrored it on my page. So now to create the executable, you just basically put that command into the console on the sort of compiling machine and just press return, and you should end up with an executable. So there we have the executable. Now that is basically ready to be copied onto the target machine. Alright, so this CentOS is just booting up. And the interesting thing about this is that even so it's got the SE Linux setting, and I'm actually going to leave it as enforcing just to show that even this isn't going to save this CentOS 5 machine from being broken into. So you can imagine if this came out back when CentOS was in use, there'd have been a few servers people would have been getting into. Okay, so that's that ready. Right, so there's a CentOS machine, and I'm just logged in as a normal user. So now, because this is just a standard 5.11, some people might say that maybe they fixed it in one of the updates. Now, there's just one problem with this version of CentOS, and that is that because it's end of life, you can't actually, the repositories don't actually work anymore. Okay, it seems like something's happened there. Let's go in again. Okay, it seems for some reason if you roll the window up, it crashes the video driver. I don't know. Right, so I'm not sure what the IP address of this is. So the usual way I find that out is if you ping an IP address which is non-existent, then it actually tells you what your IP is. That's one convenient way of working it out. So now I know that its IP address is 142. So basically, if we connect in, right? So I'm going to connect as a normal user. Right, so there I am now. So I'm logged into this virtual machine via SSH, and I'm in as a normal user. So now, if I look in the home directory, there's nothing there. So now what I want to do is to get this file over. Alright, so that file's copied over. So if I check again, okay, you might have just seen a jump in the video. Basically what happened is I tried to run the exploit, because I have to admit I haven't done a test run of the latest kernel, and it looks as if it actually doesn't work on it. So what I'm just going to do is to show you how it works with the previous kernel. So basically, if you install CentOS 5.11, the kernel it comes with is 2618-398, but it looks as if you update to the 419 kernel, I think it is. Yeah, the 419. It looks as if they actually fixed the bug in the kernel which stops this exploit from working. Not sure if there's others which might work, but what I'm going to do anyway, so what I did is I downgraded back to the 398 just so I could show you how it works on this one. And so basically what happens is you just run the, right, so if I try to SU to break-in, it says user break-in doesn't exist. So if I run the command, yeah, so if I run the command, it asks me for a password. And that's basically the password which is going to be put into the etc passwords file. Right, so what's basically happening now? Yes, so you notice that the login's a bit slow because if I run top, you can see that there's two processes. And so that's one thing about this exploit, is you want to actually name the program that you compile to something sensible, because you're going to have two processes with whatever name you've given it running at 99% while it actually tries to do the exploit. So obviously if someone is looking at top at the time when you do it, they'll immediately think, oh, there's something wrong. Especially if you haven't given them names which sort of make a bit more sense. Oh, I think the exploits actually work, because you notice all the root users have changed to breaking. So I think it's already cracked it, but it's just that the two threads are still running. I suppose that's one obvious way you know that someone's breaking into your server, if the root user's name suddenly changes. Yes, I think we're in already. We just have to wait for the two programs to finish what they're doing. It looks like they've done the job now. So remember, if for whatever reason you're still running a CentOS 5 server, and suddenly the root user name changes, that means someone's got your server 100%. And you're going to need to just upgrade or make sure you get that latest kernel. Okay, so the first thread's finished. So the next one should be, I mean, I might have just been able to press Control C the minute that break-in user appeared on top, but I thought it better just let it run through, because that's what I normally do. So I presume this is obviously going to work this time. There you go. So we have root. So we just cracked into a CentOS 5.11 server running the, not quite the last kernel. So I suppose there is still some slight hope for CentOS 5 users, as long as they make sure they're on the 419 kernel. It looks as if they fix the bug right at the end. But if you're on anything before that, I'm afraid someone's going to be rolling into your server if you let them have a shell access. And as you notice, if we look at you see, it's still enforcing, so SE Linux didn't help. Didn't help at all. So this particular exploit just goes straight through it. And it's really only, the kernel basically has to be fixed. And apparently, someone said that if they didn't echo this after they were in, the machine would crash after a while. But maybe that wasn't a virtual machine, I don't know. But it doesn't seem to do any harm just putting that command in for whatever reason. But there you go. So that is, so we have the root shell, so we can, if you ever want to go into root home directory, just have a look what's in there. There's nothing much. And yeah, and like it says, to move the old password file back. So of course when we do that, see if I break in, see how quickly it changes. That still says breaking. Now it's root again. So it looks like the exploit is pretty much broken in right at the beginning when I ran it, and all that other time it was sitting there, it was basically just sitting using up the time. So I suppose that's one way you can check. If you ever run the exploit, what you do is just go into top. Because it adds another root user, obviously top is going to read the last one in the password file. And so if another 0 user gets put in, that's the user that appears as the owner of the root processes. So I suppose, yeah, that's one way you can tell. But so basically, there you have it. So if someone is still running an old CentOS server and you need to get in there to do some work, but they've forgotten the root password and they haven't updated it to the latest kernel, then this is basically how you can get in and get a root shell on it if there's some way that you can log into it. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.